Hey there, fellow Resident Evil fans. Welcome to my review of Resident Evil 2 The Remake. You will be pleased to know there are exactly 0 spoilers in this video, so enjoy watching. As we set off, we are Rick Grimes on our way to Raccoon City for the very first time ever, and we will go through this video watching Rick as he figures things out. While we watch his sorry ass try and decipher where this non-stop rain is coming from, I will cover all of the things right with this game, all of the things wrong with this game, and all of the things they could have done differently to improve. The first course in today's meal will be dessert, so we will cover all of the goodies first. The things they did right with this game is the lighting. The flashlight aspect of this game is phenomenal. If you were looking for a dark and scary Resident Evil game, your prayers have been answered. They capitalized on the lighting in this game by using the flashlight as your line of sight. Everything else is dark and spooky. Another commendable mention to this game are the aim controls. They took a more realistic approach. They did not force you to be stationary in this game, which many people griped about. However, if you move around and try to shoot, your aim is horrendous. Therefore, standing still and letting your crosshairs lock in improves your accuracy and therefore conserves more ammo. In my opinion, a big plus. Also in correlation to the aiming mechanics, they added a new feature in receiving damage from enemies. The only way to avoid doing so is to have specific items equipped in order to dislodge the enemy from your shoulder. Gone are the old days of button mashing where you would just simply shrug them off with a classy 70s dance move. And how could we forget the old costumes? Here we see Rick Grimes. He has no business being in Raccoon City, but if you do buy the DLC or the Deluxe Edition they call it, you have access to the throwback original uniforms, such as Leon's RPD uniform and Claire's Made in Heaven red jacket vest. That covers the positives. The only other addition is everything what you would expect. The graphics, the visuals, the frame rate, the character development, the scripting, the audio, the blah blah blah. I mean, you get it. I will note, however, that they did a pretty damn good job as remaking this game with the original designs in mind. They did alter things pretty much throughout the game. Nothing is exactly the same, but they didn't tweak it too much that it's not familiar to the old school gamers. So bravo to you on that, Capcom, but we've got the negatives coming up next, so don't hold your breath. First up on the negatives list is the fact that they're forcing us to embrace their new concept on the zombies in this game, and that is headshots do not kill a zombie, because they want you to dismember that zombie from limb by limb until it is just a torso and a head flip-flopping around on the ground and trying to notch your ankles. No, Capcom, no, that is not okay. We need headshots. This is a Resident Evil game. This is a zombie game. We need headshots that kill zombies. Another negative note is there are some pointless light switches that have no business being in the game, and it's more of a commemorative approach, I would say, because I stood there in the dark room flipping up and down on that fucking light switch and nothing was happening. I would turn it off and my flashlight would turn on, and I looked around and there was nothing, and I turned the light on and my flashlight turned off, and I looked around and there was nothing. There was even a sign on the wall that said do not leave film exposed to the light because it does destroy the film. However, this had no effect whatsoever, so I turned that light back off because I enjoyed the flashlight more. Another negative note is there are no alternate puzzle variations. In fact, the only variation to puzzles are simply changing which order a switch needs to be flipped, or a specific circuitry piece needs to be rotated, or how many times it needs to be rotated. All the puzzles are the same. Scenario A, scenario B. All the item locations are the same. Scenario A, scenario B.
Hello?
Rick's going inside. Girl! Girl? Carl, are you in here, Carl? Something's not right. Carl's not here. Alright, getting back to it. Another negative drawback is that they did not have the gun shop owner in this game. I was personally upset about this because his dialogue was iconic to that specific game. I don't have a clue, darling. Hold it. What are you doing? Gone from the game forever. This is a biased opinion, but I wanted that dialogue in this game. I love cheesy. Alright? I love mac and cheesy. Another piece of dialogue that they removed from the game was the trucker's dialogue. Why you bite me? That was iconic as well. And they removed it. Another negative mark is item usage is way too obvious. If there's an item and it looks unfamiliar to you, if you examine the item, it then shows you what it is specifically. If you're still confused about it, it will likely give you a hint as to this looks like a sharp object that could cut such and such. So it leaves nothing to the imagination. Another negative note is this game holds more elements from Resident Evil 7 than it ever did from Resident Evil 2. And I'm talking 11, 12, 13 plus elements, all from Resident Evil 7. The only thing familiar from Resident Evil 2 are the storylines, the characters, the environments. Otherwise, everything else, they plucked it out of Resident Evil 7 and plugged its furry ass into this game here. Unacceptable. Alright, moving on to improvements. It's okay that we don't have headshots, Capcom. It's okay, alright? Don't kick yourself too hard. But why we don't have the headshots is not okay. I don't want to be forced to embrace your new depiction of the zombie. Alright? I don't care if limbs go flying off and we hear all this gushing sound and skin gets blown off the face and all that shit. Give us a low caliber handgun that isn't quite powerful enough to penetrate the human skull. Or make the zombies movements, the head movements, more sporadic so it's harder to get a headshot. Or limit the ammo even more so that if you're not shooting heads, you're not going to kill, and therefore that's another way to kind of go the juke route rather than shooting. If you're not a great shot, run around the zombies. Another improvement is when you get attacked by a zombie or a creature, if you do not have an item to dislodge them, you are forced to take the bite. Offer a button mashing option where we reduce the amount of damage taken by how many times we push the button before the creature actually attacks. An example would be if a zombie bites you and you're mashing buttons. You put your forearm up and you take the bite on the forearm rather than taking it right in the fucking jugular. You know, that's a good idea right there, Capcom. You should stamp and deliver that shit and put it in the next game. Alright, getting into the results now. Bottom line, this feels like a Resident Evil game. It looks like a Resident Evil game, but it does not play like a Resident Evil game. They did get back to the old survival horror, but they don't deserve a pat on the back for bringing the game back to the basics. All in all, this game is a 6 out of 10 as a standalone. But they did not in fact remake Resident Evil 2, they reimagined it and added their own twists and elements that made it their own rather than remaking the original with all the things that worked.